Hi guys, welcome back to Flora Fun and Food. My name is Lauren and today I'm going to show you how I made this shirt using my Cricut machine. So let's go. So the first thing I like to do when creating a new t-shirt design from my Cricut is just to go to Google and type in what I'm looking for. And you can see I've typed this one in before just to look at some designs and get some ideas. I don't ever try to copy a design exactly because then you're, copyright and stealing from the original creator, but I do like to kind of get some inspiration from things. So the first few that are catching my eye are these that have block letters in the back and more of a script font in the front. Now I really like how this one looks. So I'm going to open it up and just kind of get a better look at it. Yeah, so I love the design of this. I really actually like the rainbow here, but I really only have black and white iron-on vinyl right now. I may in the future get some more colors. Honestly, I may have some random stuff like sparkly yellow, but I don't have enough to make anything rainbow right now. So I think I really like this block and script kind of combo. Now, I'm not going to go and find the exact fonts here because, again, I don't want to recreate it and steal the exact design, but I can make something similar and make it my own. Over here, I did see one that was black and white, so I wanted to kind of look at that one. So this one, oh, this one says teacher in the background and it says 4th grade in the front. Ooh, I like that one too. Choices. I think I like this one just because it's less busy. It's a little more simple. I really like this one though, and I love this script font more than this script font, but this just kind of gives me a better idea. But I like the block letters here because they're thinner than the block letters here. So again, I'm just getting kind of inspiration from stuff that other people have created. And again, without copying it exactly by trying to find the exact fonts and things. And if I don't have any fonts on my computer that I like for this design, I like a website called dafont.com. It has tons of fonts that you can download for free. You do need to make sure if you're going to sell them, like on Etsy, like if you're going to make these shirts and sell them, you do need to make sure that you check. This says free for personal use. So you can't use this to profit from. So you do have to kind of look for licensing and things like that. But if you're just making it for yourself or friends and you're not making a profit off of it, you can use these fonts. And I always like going to kind of the retro ones or the curly ones or the there's like a script one. So the script gets kind of really crazy. Decorative is always a fun one. It just kind of has a myriad of things. And so you never know what you're going to find. If you know the name of a font that you're looking for, you can search it by name. But I like to just kind of go through these different, the script ones have different subcategories and things like that. So I just kind of browse these every now and then and just download fonts as I find them that I think I would use in a project someday. So let's go ahead and open up our Cricut Design Space app and start a new project. Now, I have made multiple t-shirts for myself and my 4th grade teammates before, so I already know kind of the size that I need to make these for them to fit on our t-shirts. One of our teammates is really petite and tiny, so I make hers a little bit smaller so that it fits on her shirt, and then the other two I make them just a couple inches bigger just so that they fill the shirt correctly. So let's go ahead and add a text, and we'll do our block letters first. So I already kind of like this block font itself. So I'm going to go ahead and make this 8 inches wide because I know that that will fit on our t-shirt. And I actually really like this font. So let's see what this font is. So this is Cricut Sans, which is just a basic font that Cricut uses. You can buy different fonts from Cricut. They are a little pricey, so I have never bought them because I can find pretty much anything I want from that dafont.com. If I were going to sell these on my Etsy shop or something, then I would definitely purchase them just so I knew that they were licensed and I was allowed to use them. But for personal things like this, I go to my system and this has all the fonts that I've downloaded. So I really like this script font right here. I use this for a lot of things, so we'll probably come back to that. But I do want to find maybe a different block. Oh, I like this script too. So I just kind of go through and I try a few things and I try them out and see how they look together. I also, when I'm looking at these, I think about, you know, the thinner ones or the more frilly ones are not going to cut as easily, or I'm going to have to do a lot of weeding, like picking out the negative space more than something that's thick and chunky like this. So I do kind of, you know, like this typewriter font is really pretty, this Courier New, but it's pretty thin. And so the Cricut blade can do it. It's just a little more tedious. It doesn't work as well as like if I picked this one, it's just more bold. So sometimes I'll pick one. This Courier, I'm pretty sure, has a bold option. So sometimes if I want to use it, I will just bold the letters and use that. But I think we can find a pretty good one. I love this script font too. This looks like a pretty basic kind of just block lettering. Let's see what this one looks like. And let's resize it. For some reason, it doesn't like to keep our size. So it jumped it way up. Let's put it back to 8 inches wide. So I like this font. I think it's going to cut out very, very easily. I think it's very simple. So I just make a copy just because I'm lazy and I don't want to click this again. If you double click, you can type in your new word, highlight it all, and we'll go back to our fonts, go to system, and then we'll go and try some of these more decorative ones. Let's try this one first that I liked. So I do like this. And I'm gonna make this a different color. So we'll make this white, and I'll keep this one like a darker color, or like we'll make it black because that's what I'm gonna do. So I think this one needs to be bigger, but if I get too big, it doesn't fit on the shirt. So that's where you kind of run into some sizing issues. So I think what I need to do is stretch it a little bit. So I'm gonna unlock the size because let me show you. If you have it locked and you try to pull it this way, it's gonna just do weird things. So we'll undo that. But if you unlock, it doesn't keep the proportions. And so you can drag up and stretch things out. So I'm gonna make it nice and tall. And we'll try to keep it around 8 inches wide. That way it's a little more stretched out. I don't want it to look too stretched out. And then this one looks better on top, that it, you know, now that it has some more space, you can read it a little bit better. If you really want things to be centered, you highlight both things. You can either drag a box around everything and it highlights everything. You can see over here, both of them are highlighted. You can click one, hold your shift button and click the other. Or you can click over here in the layers, hold shift and click the other layer. So there's 1,000 ways that you can highlight what you want to highlight. So once you get them both highlighted, we need to align these. I want to make sure that these two are aligned perfectly with each other. So when you go up here to your align tool, you can align in all different ways. You can do just horizontally, just vertically, or I'm going to do this center, which will make sure, there we go. I was pretty close. It will make sure that they are perfectly in line with one another. If I resize something, I'm going to have to realign. So just be aware of that. Okay, so my Cricut program froze. So note to self, you should probably save as you go because I had to totally recreate this. So we'll call this 4th grade shirt and we'll save it that way. If you have to do like I did and force quit and restart, you can still have it. So the dimensions may be slightly different than they were. I don't remember what they were, but it's close enough. So I realigned these. Now what we need to do is highlight both of these to select them both. And we need to slice out the white that is behind all of the black font so that when I go to iron this, I'm not trying to iron black vinyl on top of white and I'm ironing directly onto the shirt because it'll just stick better. So it'll make more sense when I show you. So you highlight both or you select both. You use your slice tool down here and it doesn't look like it did anything, but you need to move this around. So I'm not sure why it is slicing the O out. I'm gonna undo. So I'm gonna cheat it a little bit and I'm gonna go ahead and just copy the black word grade. And I'm gonna slice these again. I bet it'll do the same thing. Yeah, I'm not sure why it's slicing the middle of the O. I'm not a Cricut expert by any means, so I'm going to delete these two black pieces that it sliced. And I'm going to move the white out and delete it as well. So now you can see that it has cut the word grade out of where it overlaps the white. And so I'm going to re-center this, and I don't have to sit here and try and line it up because I know that I aligned it center and it goes right back to where it should be. So, and really I don't have to put it back because I will show you what happens when we click make it. If you are using the same color and you don't have to do two layers like I'm doing here, what you would want to do is go ahead and highlight both of these layers and weld them together. If you weld them, it will keep them together on your mat. So let me show you what I mean. So right now, this looks like it's together, but since they are not welded, they're two separate layers. When I go to make it, it knows that I have a white vinyl layer and a black vinyl layer, and so it separates it into two different mats because it knows I'm using two different colors of vinyl. Now, if I wanted these to stay together exactly lined up like this, what you would need to do is highlight both layers and weld them together. And it changes them to the same color because it knows it's going on the same color mat. Obviously, this design is not made to be welded, but when you go to make it, it will stay together like you want it. So there's just a little hint, tip, whatever you want to call it. But I am not going to weld these because I need two colors. So I'm going to go ahead and hit save because I have it how I want it. And then I'm going to go ahead and hit make it, and we will start getting our vinyl cut on the Cricut. So what you want to do is make sure that you have both of your layers correct. If you're doing iron-on, you have to mirror it. So we want to make sure we click this mirror button on both mats because the way you cut the iron-on vinyl is you actually cut it backwards and then you iron it on the shirt with the sticky side down, but what it's doing is it's cutting the sticky side first. You don't want to cut the shiny side because that is the kind of heat resistant layer and the sticky layer that helps you align it on the shirt. So anytime you're doing an iron-on project, you have to mirror your design. Once we have everything correct, and you can also change your mat size, or you can do different materials here. You can change the mat size down here, but we're just gonna, this is a very small font, so we're just using a basic 12 by 12 mat. So we'll hit continue. And then you need to make sure you plug in your Cricut so that it can find it. If it doesn't automatically find it, you need to hit the refresh. And it should recognize that it is now hooked in via USB. Then what you need to do next is pick what you are using. So what material you're using. And I have a few favorites here that I like to use. So Everyday Iron-On is what I am using. And I really like this Paper Studio brand. It's a lot cheaper than the Cricut brand stuff, and it works just as well. So these are the two I'm going to be using. It's just the solid black and the solid white. Then you need to make sure that it tells you need to make sure mirror is on. And over here you can see that mirror is on there and mirror is on there. So we're good there. Pressure, just keep it at default. And then you need to load your mat. I forgot to make our 3 different sizes. We'll do 6.5 for hers. There we go. We'll make sure mirror is on again, but this time it has 3. And you can kind of tell I'm going to need at least 3 inches. I'll probably do a little extra, 3 inches wide of the black, and I need to go down to about 9 inches of white. And really, I don't need to go all the way across, but it's already set up to be 12 inches across. So we'll hit continue. Make sure your USB plug is plugged in. We're going to select our material, which is Everyday Iron-On. We're making sure mirror is turned on. So I like to peel the protective cover off. And you need to do shiny side down when you're using the iron-on. So we'll go ahead and line this up. And make sure you get it pretty square. And I'm not even going to bother cutting this. You could cut it off at about 9 inches, but since this is a long roll, I'm just going to leave it because I know it'll just cut out what I need and I can cut off the excess in a minute. And I'll do the same thing for the black. Now, this does tend to peel up at the edges. So what I like to do is just tape it down. Masking tape or painter's tape works really, really well. However, I only have Scotch tape right now, so it's going to have to do. And you just barely stick it on the edge so that your blade doesn't have to cut through tape as well as your vinyl. If it does, you may not get a cut all the way through like you need it. And I like to do a little on the side just to be sure it stays where it's supposed to be. Like that. So let's get it loaded into our machine. So once we have our settings correct on our computer end, you hit this flashing arrow button and make sure that it loads straight. If it gets cocked somehow, you need to fix it, otherwise it's going to just tear everything up. Now there is a fast mode option, and I haven't really found a huge difference in quality. I do find a difference in time, so I always click fast mode unless it's something really intricate and detailed. So I'll click that. Once you have all of your settings ready, you'll click the flashing Cricut button. Then once it's done, you go ahead and hit the flashing arrow again, and it will totally release your mat. And then if you thought maybe your blade was dull or something and it didn't cut all the way through, before you release it, you can hit the Cricut button again and it will do the exact same cut. But if you've taken it out, don't put it back in and redo the cut because it will be slightly off. So it's hard to see on camera, but you can see that it has cut through the backside of our iron-on vinyl. And now we need to weed this out and switch to black vinyl and get the letters for the grade font cut out. So I just peel this off. All right, so I did end up just cutting a strip off of my roll of black iron-on vinyl because the words grade are really small. I just knew I needed 3 inches. This is the shiny side, and this goes down onto our mat, and this is the more dull side. You can tell really well on the black. It's harder on the white. We're gonna get this attached to our mat just like we did with the white, and throw some tape up at the top to hold it down. Okay, so just like the white, I have taped kind of just the corners down, and this is the back non-shiny side of the black vinyl. And just like we did before, we're gonna push it in, hit the double arrow, make sure it's not warped in any way, and then on our computer screen, it looks like everything is correct, and then we'll hit the Cricut, and it's gonna cut out our second mat. Okay, now that it's done, double arrow to release it, and there we go. So again, we will just remove it from the mat by unpeeling our tape. So here comes the somewhat tedious part. I went ahead and cut the excess white vinyl off, and I just saved the rolls so that you can reuse it later. And now we need to peel all of the negative space vinyl off, and it's hard to kind of get it started, but once you do, it's not so bad. And then we need to weed out anything we don't want ironed on. So kind of, you know, like the middle of an E or an O, things like that, you have to weed out. And it's easier if you have the little tools. So once you get a corner, that took a while, you're going to slowly peel off the excess vinyl. And it does feel wasteful, but there's really not any other way to do this. So I like to get a whole edge started and then just kind of go from there. And I'm really close to some letters up here, so I don't want to get anything peeled off that's not supposed to peel off. So once you get this edge, I like to hold and start peeling a little at a time. Now we're to the letters. I probably could have salvaged this piece, but sometimes it's just easier to go for it. Now, I'm just getting kind of this bottom to go. It's a little tedious. Like I said, you have to just kind of go slow. It doesn't like to come off in one piece, so you have to kind of go in and peel around things, find the edges, and then keep going. So you can kind of see here we're getting into where the black is going to go. Now don't go too fast or you're going to pull things off that you didn't want to pull off, and it is really hard to get it back in the right spot once you do that. It's possible, it's just a little time consuming. The simpler the design, the easier the weeding is. Font's usually not too terrible, but when you're doing a double layer like this and you have all these little pieces inside the letters to peel off too, makes it a little trickier. And if it rips in the process, sometimes it's easier just to rip off the excess like that and then go from there so you don't have a bunch of bulk in your way. You can kind of see what you're doing a little bit better. And the nice thing about iron-on vinyl is that it is not sticky until it gets hot. The only thing that's sticky is this clear backing, and that just helps you line it up on your fabric. And when you're using, you know, like permanent vinyl, like I'm going to make some stickers for this cup later, it's sticky when you peel it off, so you can't let it touch itself or it clings together and it's almost impossible to get apart. Okay, so now I have peeled off the majority, but I can see that there are still chunks like inside the O's that I need to take care of, and I need to look to make sure I haven't missed anything where the black letters are going to go. So I like these really pointy tweezers, and I'm going to go in and find an edge. Try not to touch the vinyl that you're going to use because it can get, you know, stretched out. But we're just peeling off the middle of the O's. Kind of helps if you bend a little bit, but don't crease it too much or you can mess up your other letters. Okay, and then I'm just going through and seeing if anything else needs to be weeded out. And what's really helpful is if you look at your screen to see what it's supposed to look like. I'm going to turn it over and compare it to my screen. Looks good to me. And I'm going to go ahead and just cut off this extra clear part just so that it's easier to work with when I am lining it up on my t-shirts. And then I'm going to cut these apart from each other, and I did get these a little close, so it's going to be a little tight, but just make sure you don't cut the vinyl and you should be fine. Okay, now we have our 3/4 words, and we need to weed out the black grade words. Again, start at an edge, and I started at an edge that didn't have letters close to it, and then I'm going to hold and peel and kind of pull up to get the kind of in-between pieces to come up with it. So you just kind of work it as you go, holding pressure kind of at the end so that it doesn't stretch so bad. Peeling up. This part is always so satisfying. Okay, and again, we have some pieces like inside the G that need to come off. It is so important that you get the weeding done correctly because once you iron, there is no going back. And so again, I'm just cutting the excess off just so it's easier to work with. And then I'll cut them at a wonky angle here because of the G, but I will cut them apart into 3 separate pieces. And there we go. So the next step is to lay out our shirt. And this is the smaller of the three, so I'm going to find my smaller letters. And now you can kind of see how the white and the black are going to go over top of each other without overlapping while ironing on. So you do have to iron this in 2 stages. So what I like to do is try and line up the middle of our font or our picture or whatever we're doing, and then kind of bring it down and stick it. That's what the sticky part is so nice about, what's so nice about the sticky part, because you can kind of stick it to the shirt and get an idea. Now I know this is going to go on top, so I'm just going to stick it there for now. It doesn't have to be perfect, but we'll get an idea. Then I like to kind of hold it up and see if it looks straight. And I actually think I did that one pretty well on the first try. Usually I peel it off and re-stick it about 100 times. Okay. So I like where it's at. If the shirt is really wrinkly also, you should probably iron before you stick your vinyl on, or the vinyl can kind of glue a wrinkle over itself and then you'll never get it out. I've done that before. So there are no wrinkles where we're ironing, and I think that that looks nice and centered. So since the white layer is the bottom layer, we'll do it first. Once it is totally adhered, we'll then go in, line up our black letters where they go, and iron those on top. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and turn. I have a Cricut press, but you can use just a regular iron. So I'm gonna turn this on, and I just leave it at 400 degrees. There are different settings. I find that they don't work as well as they say they should, so I just leave it at the hottest setting. It may be because I don't use the Cricut like anti-heat mat or whatever it's called. I just use tea towels. So let's get our base kind of set up. This is just my craft table. That's why there's paint and all kinds of stuff all over it. So, and I've delaminated the top because I've used this iron on it so often, but it's the craft table, so it doesn't matter if it gets messed up. So we're gonna lay down a tea towel as kind of like a barrier somewhat for our desk. And I will iron this once our press gets hot, because you don't want any wrinkles underneath because it could make marks on your shirt. So I'll do that, and then we'll put another tea towel on top of our project. While this continues to warm up, I'm going to go ahead and just give our bottom tea towel a quick iron so that it's nice and flat. I didn't have this press for a long time, and I would just use a regular iron, and it works. This just works so much better because it has such a broad surface area that I don't have to go over places multiple times. So there's our base layer, and we'll go ahead and bring our project shirt in and lay it nice and flat. Make sure this is where we want it. Make sure that we're not going to iron some wrinkles in. Now this plastic film is heat resistant, but you don't want to put the iron directly on it because it could possibly melt it. So you need to go ahead and put another layer of cloth. So I'm just going to use another tea towel here on top of it. Flatten it out. And I'm keeping mine folded over double just because it's a pretty thin tea towel. Our iron is pretty much up to temperature, so I'm going to take it off the base, set it right on top, and hit the green Cricut button, and it will do a 40-second timer. Now it's supposed to do this in 40 seconds, but it never does for me. So I give it an extra long kind of rub around push iron just to make sure it's really stuck. But I will tell you from experience, don't over iron white because it will burn and turn tan and brown. So if you want to keep your project white, don't over iron. So we have 15 seconds left. And you can check it as you go. So I know that I'm going to iron a black layer on top of this, so the white will get an extra round of ironing. So I'm not going to do a ton. Like as soon as it's ready to peel off, I'll peel it off, put it back on its base. And the way you check it is you peel up. This Everyday Iron-On is a hot peel, which means you can peel it while it's hot. Some of the metallic stuff is a cold peel, so you have to wait till it cools down to peel it off or it'll stretch it all out. So the F is still coming totally off the shirt, so it is not ready. Like I said, it never works first go around. So what I like to do is I just set it on there for another 40. Okay, and I know it's probably still not done. So what I like to do is kind of push and kind of just move it around on our project, giving it a nice good pressure, making sure I'm hitting every area of our vinyl, and then we'll check it again. Make sure you don't set your iron on top of the cord. All right, we're gonna try and see if it will peel. It's still not wanting to stick to the shirt, so we're gonna do another one. This time I'm just gonna rub around, and I'm not gonna set the timer, so I'm just still kind of just pushing pretty hard, but going kind of slow. Going in different directions. Okay, let's try this again. Let's try another corner. Sometimes it works. There we go. So now I'm able to pull the plastic piece off very, very slowly, because if any piece of the vinyl starts to come up with it, you need to lay it right back down immediately and iron again, especially with these little dainty cuts here. So far, so good. This F was the one giving us trouble up at the top corner. So we'll just peel slowly. There we go. There's our first layer. So let's get our black lettering now. And we do need to line up the letters exactly. There we go. And it does help when the bottom layer is warm. It just sticks a little bit better. So now that is stuck on there, we're going to cover it back up and repeat our process. So since the desk and the shirt were already pretty hot, this peeled off the first time. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put this piece back on just for an extra layer of protection against burning. I'm going to lay my towel back over it, and I'm going to give it a final 40 seconds of heat, so that I can make sure it is extra stuck. I have done a ton of these. I wash and dry them, and the vinyl has never peeled off, as long as I do make sure that I have really ironed it on well. I don't wash it inside out. I don't hang it to dry. I dry it like on high in the dryer, and it's still fine. So I really recommend this vinyl brand because it just really does a good job. And there's our t-shirt. Now we just need to do the other two and we are done. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed that video. If you did, please go ahead and give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel to see more content like this. And I hope to see you guys next time. Thanks, guys. Bye.